Hey everybody, I'm Jimmy Rance. I've been talking about this for a while, so I think I'm going to try to tell it, do the best I can. It's a true story. And I'm going to call this one The Power of Music. And it truly is. It really, truly is. You know, music is like poetry. It moves. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Man, you can be at your all-time lowest and you can hear a certain song and it'll just pep you right up. I mean, you can even be feeling horrible, horrible. You can hear a song and it'll really emotionally bring you down. Um, a long time ago, to start this story off, a long time ago, my mother and my father, they divorced. I was pretty young. I was probably about, I don't know, maybe 12 years old. I may be wrong even on that. I can't remember. Well, my mother remarried not really that long after. She married a man that I really didn't know. So now I've got a new stepfather. I don't know him. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know my sister. All he knows is that whenever he marries my mother, I am part of the marital package for him. I just happen to come right along into the marriage. The guy never did have any children, didn't know how to be a dad, a father, didn't know anything. So it's really tough. And to be honest with you, I'm going to spare you a lot of crap. He basically did not like me. I don't think he liked me is because I think when he married my mother, he wanted my mother all to himself. He loved my mother. I mean, he loved her from the day they got married to the day he passed away. He really, I got to say that for the guy. But we butted heads a lot. I mean, as I got a little older, it got kind of physical. I guess you could call it an abusive relation, father, stepson. Again, I was a thorn in his side. He wanted my mom. He didn't want me. Well, anyway, I just thought I would start it off like that because I wanted you to know that my dad and I call him my dad. I'll just call him Dad just for the sake of this video. We didn't get along, okay? So as the years went by, we had our ups and downs, but we mostly had downs for some reason. Just didn't like each other. Just didn't care for each other. Well, as I got a little older and I started getting interested in music, I was into the kind of music of the era that I grew up in, the Jimi Hendrix and Black Sabbath and Grand Funk and the Doors and Eric Burton and the Animals and Santana, all that kind of stuff, just the regular bands of the day. Well, my dad, he hated that music. My God, he hated it with a passion. I literally couldn't even hardly play it. If I played it, I had to play it at a volume so low because he didn't want to hear it. Because if he heard it, he would come in my room and literally snap the records in half or pick up my record player and throw it across the room. That was the kind of violent type situation it was for me when I was just a kid. Well, I'll tell you something. Whenever I turned 16 years old, my dad came in there and into my room and he says, I want you to know that this Friday night, you're going with me to New Orleans. And he said, the reason we're going to New Orleans is because for the first time in your life, you're going to listen to a real, true band. You're going to listen to real music. I'm taking you to the Royal Sonesta, which is a very nice place in New Orleans. I said, I can't get in there. I'm only 16 years old. I'm not old enough to go in there because they serve liquor and stuff. He says, don't worry about it. I got it covered. Now, he was a cop. He was a state cop. So I guess he had some pull. Well, he left the room after telling me that, and I thought to myself, oh, Jesus, man, now I got to go listen to this old fogey bullshit music. Oh, my God, I'm going to have just my whole weekend's going to be ruined. So anyway, here we are. We get to Friday. Comes time for me and him to drive to New Orleans. And whenever we get there, we get to the Royal Sonesta, and I'm really nervous. I'm really nervous because I'm 16 years old. I'm not old enough to go into the Royal Sonesta, to go to this part of the Royal Sonesta. It's like kind of like a lounge, drink and all that. And it was like a 2-drink minimum. Well, sure enough, My dad didn't lie. He got me in. And I sat down. We sat down at this table, and the stage is just not too far. We're like dead center of the stage. He had really good seats. And all of a sudden, this band came out that I have never heard of in my life. And my God, man, these guys came out, and I mean, they started wailing on the saxophones and the drum and the guitar and the keyboards. And the key singer, I know most of you probably hasn't even heard of this guy, even though you've heard him, but you don't know you've probably heard him. And the guy's name is Louis Prima. Louis Prima. Louis Prima, if you ever watched The Jungle Book, the Disney movie, The Jungle Book, and there's a character he's an orangutan, called King Louis. Well, that's based off of Louis Prima. Louis Prima sang that song, Ooby-Doo, I want to be like you, hoo-hoo. That's Louis Prima. Louis Prima wrote and performed this song, which at the time became one of the most famous songs ever, called Sing, Sing, Sing. Now, a guy named Benny Goodman made that song famous. Sing, Sing, Sing. But the real song was supposed to be Sing, Bing, Sing. Bing, as in Bing Crosby. Because back in the day, Louis Prima and Bing Crosby were like best friends. Louis Prima, if you remember the song Just a Gigolo, David Lee Roth made that song kind of famous, but it was Louis Prima that wrote that song. He did some songs, one, I know you never heard of this one, called Bonacera. He did a song called Oh Marie. I mean, Bonacera, that song at the time, way, way back, we're talking about old, way back in the old days. That song was like one of the #1 renowned songs in the world. This was a very famous song. And when he did Old Black Magic, maybe you've heard of that. Well, anyway, that's who Louis Prima is. Louis Prima's from New Orleans, and Louis Prima had the best saxophonist on earth, and his name was Sam Butera. Sam Butera. And then they had a band called The Witnesses. Hang in there with me. I know you're probably bored to death. I'm just trying to set this story up for you, okay? So anyway, Louis Prima and his band, Sam Butera and The Witnesses, man, they cranked out and they busted it open, man. I mean, they came out, and I never heard this kind of jazz before like this. I mean, I'm just 16 years old, and I mean, my eyes are like wide open, like, my God. Listen to these guys. They were fantastic. And I noticed that my dad kept looking at me. We'd be sitting at the table, and he'd kind of look over at me, and I'd kind of look back at him, be smiling. And that made him smile because he knew that now, hey, look at this. He actually likes these guys. And then after they did their little show, they do like 2 or 3 shows a night, acts. Well, Louis Prima and some of the band people came down, and they sat at our table. And my dad ordered it was just a round of drinks for some of the guys in the band, and we just sat around and we talked. It was real nice. It was pleasant. We stayed for the second show. We watched that. And then after the show was over with, they sold records. The records they would make, they sell them at, whenever they go to these places and play. Well, we bought the records, and they autographed them for us. Louis Prima signed it, and Sam Butera, the famous saxophone player. Okay, so with that being said, all of a sudden, I am a big Louis Prima, Sam Butera, and the Witnesses fan. Oh my God, I just love these guys. Well, they came back, and we went to see them again, at another date. And then before you know it, we're out on vacation and we're in Las Vegas. We go see them out in Las Vegas play. They played up in Lake Tahoe. I've traveled up to Lake Tahoe to see Louis Prima and Sam Butera and the Witnesses play. I've gone down to Mobile, Alabama and watched Louis Prima. I was like a fanboy, let's just say. And I traveled all over the place. I knew them. I got to know them personally. They knew that my dad and I were big fans. And that's what kind of bonded my dad and I together, was Louis Prima and his music. It was wonderful, and it still is wonderful. I still listen to their stuff to this day. But as all the years passed, and out of all the shows that I've seen with Louis and all them playing, I had a big stack of records. Now there's a story to this, so hang on now. Don't go away, because it's going to start getting better. So what happened is I had all these records and all this stuff. And Louis Prima got very ill. He had like a tumor. And Louis went and had surgery. And the doctors told him he hurt so bad. The doctors told him, you only have 1% chance of surviving this surgery. Louis hurt so bad. He said, I don't care, let's try it, fix it. It didn't work. Louis ended up with a coma. He ended up being in a coma probably for a couple of years. And then he passed away. But his saxophone man, Sam Butera, he kept the band going because the real talent was this band. So Sam Butera took this band all over the place. And again, I traveled all over the United States to go see Sam Butera. I knew Sam Butera. He knew me only as a fan, but he would come sit down. We would talk. We just had a good time, you know. I knew all of the band, all of them. Well, anyway, something happened. My family and I, we were on vacation. In fact, we were up in New England. This was our biggie trip, man. We went up to New York City, and we went up to Boston. We went up to Cape Cod. We went all up in the New Hampshire, the White Mountains. It was really pretty up there too. Very pretty. But while that was going on, while we were on vacation back home in Mississippi, guess what? There was a big barumbler coming through, and it was a big hurricane. And it came and it hit my town. The town I lived in is called Pass Christian. Well, this hurricane just hit head on Pass Christian. We had 6 feet deep of water inside of our house. This was a bad hurricane. And so while this hurricane was going on, we were up in New England. We cut our trip short because we had to come home. This hurricane was so powerful, and the way the news made it out, they made it sound like where we're from was just totally devastated and damn near everybody died. That's the way they made it. So we thought we were coming home to bury our family. But that's another story for another day. But anyway, we get home. Water has receded. Our home is totally destroyed. And not only was my home destroyed, but all of those signed autographed records that I had from Louis Prima. Louis Prima, I can't tell you, this guy was big time. He was so big in Las Vegas, he played at the Sands Casino a lot, hotel and casino, that the Rat Pack, Sinatra and Sammy Davis and Dean Martin and Joey Bishop and Crawford, they would go and listen to Louis and Sam Butera play. That's how popular and how good these guys were. But anyway, all of my records were destroyed. And there was no way to replace them because the only way they sold them was you had to go to their show. Well, I couldn't go to their show anymore because Louis was dead. I could never get a signature from Louis Prima again. Now, I could go and listen in the future, which I did, to go see Sam Butera and the Witnesses, Louis' band. But they didn't have any of the old records. They didn't have the records for sale like they did when they had the Prima band. So I felt, you know, my God, man, this is horrible. I mean, I was sad. My dad was sad. I mean, this music between this band and Louis Prima bonded my dad and I. It made us really close because we had something in common, and it was the Louis Prima music. Louis Prima was also married to this gal named Keely Smith, if you ever heard of her. You talk about a boy. She was fantastic. Go listen to Keely Smith with Louis Prima. You'll love it. It's great. But anyway, I started, getting older and stuff. I used to visit chat rooms. We didn't have like all this YouTube and all this stuff. Facebook, that didn't even exist. But we had chat rooms. Well, I went into this chat room, and this chat room was a chat room by a man named Jimmy Vincent. Hang on now, it's getting ready to get better. Jimmy Vincent was the drummer for Louis Prima. You want to hear a drummer, go listen to Sing, 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 and listen to the drum part. That's Jimmy Vincent. He'll blow your mind just listen to this guy play the drums. But anyway, I got to hold my pen. So if you hear some rattling, it's my pen, like my security blanket. But anyway, I'm in the chat room and I'm talking. And I told the story of about how me and my dad used to go listen to Jimmy Vincent and Sam Butera and Louis Prima, and we used to listen to them. And I used to buy all their records. We had a hurricane. All of my albums got destroyed. They got totally, totally destroyed. It was heartbreaking. And I told that story. Well, what I didn't know is that there was this lady in the chat room, and she sent me a direct message or a private message. And she said, "Do you mind if I could talk to you privately?" I didn't know who this gal was. I didn't know who she was. But I said, "Yeah, absolutely. That'll be okay." So we started getting, I got this direct message and she started talking to me, but she didn't really identify herself. She just was talking to me. She was saying that I was so touched by the story that you told, how you and your dad bonded over Louis Prima's music, and that you bought all these records through all these years, had them all autographed, and now you don't have them anymore. She says, "Look, I know you don't know me, and I'm not going to waste your time, honestly, but would you mind if I called you on the telephone?" I kind of thought for just a minute, but I thought, this sounds safe. She was very polite when we were talking. So I said, what the hell? I gave her my phone number. She called me up. And she said, "Jim, I want you to know something, okay?" She says, "So you'll know who you're talking to. My name is Gia. My name is Gia, my own Prima. I was Louis Prima's last wife." I'm like, oh my God. I'm talking to Louis Prima's wife. And she says, "What I want to do, because this happened to you, I am going to send you every CD that was ever made on Capitol Records." It was a big stack of them, CDs like that. I went and looked for them today. I couldn't find them. They're here somewhere in the house. But because I was going to show you. Let me get something here. Hang on. I knew I would do this. Hang in there. I want to get something because I got to show you something, but I forgot to to put it over here. But she said, "I'm Gia Prima, and I want to send you all of their records because I know that you and your father probably cherish their music. I want you to have them. They're free." And she says, "I'm going to send you something else. Okay? But I need your address. Jim, I need your address. Just trust me." Well, I trusted her, and I gave her my address. And sure enough, and I got this big little a big package, well, not too big, but a fairly decent sized package from Prima One Music label. And there it was. All of these albums or these CDs that Louis Prima and them made. And I couldn't get them autographed because Louis was gone. But Gia sent that to me. And Gia also sent me this. I'm going to show you. I hope this don't glare out too bad. Can y'all see this? This is Louis Prima. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at that. This is Louis Prima. This is Gia. That's Gia, my own Prima. And this is Sam Butera, to me, the greatest saxophone player in the world. And she signed it for me down here. It's so old, it's all faded out, but she says, "To my southern buddy, always Gia." I don't know if you can see that or not. But I've had this for a long time. Long time. Well, the bottom line here is this. Gia and I, after she sent me all of the CDs, and she sent me the picture, and she sent me some letters, and I would contact her, she would contact me. She had my phone number. I had her phone number. We used to talk on the phone all the time. Gia Prima and I became so close, you would not believe it. I could call her anytime, day or night. She could call me anytime, day or night. She ended up moving over to Destin, Florida, and I'm living on the Mississippi coast, so it's not far at all. Well, one day she called me up and she goes, Jim, listen, I'm going to be over on the coast. I'm going to be on the Mississippi coast. Would you like to have dinner with me? I'm like, oh my God, man. This is Gia Prima. Gia also was Louis' last, she was a singer also. She's been on the Ed Sullivan Show. She's been on all kinds of stuff. She sang a song called I Want You to Be My Baby. Type Gia, G-I-A, Prima. I Want You to Be My Baby. And she's on the Ed Sullivan Show with the band. And man, she's singing with Louis. And I mean, this is the fastest singing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, so fast. You got to just check it out. But Gia says, look, Jim, you pick out the restaurant. And that's what we'll do, okay? So you let me know what restaurant you want to eat at. So I can tell you right now, we're going to go to Chappie's. It's kind of a seafood restaurant in Long Beach, Mississippi. It's no longer there. Hurricane took it out. But now I get to meet Gia. I physically get to meet Louis Prima's wife. And so I'm there first, and I'm standing, at the very front of the restaurant. Kind of had like this porch covered thing. Very nice restaurant. And here comes Gia. And Gia sees me and I see her. It's like we instantly connected. And I hugged her and she hugged me. And she kissed me on the cheek. I kissed her on the cheek. It was wonderful. It was like two friends, two long lost friends finally get to meet in person. So we go in and we have a wonderful meal, a wonderful, wonderful meal. And then after that, we did all of that stuff. Then she had to go back to Destin, live her life, and I had to live mine. Well, I got another phone call again. And she said that she would you like to go eat at Chappie's again? I'm going to be on the coast. And I went, yeah, let's go. So we met again, but she says, listen, why don't you bring your father and your mother with you? I said, you wouldn't mind? She goes, no. And it's all on me. I'm paying for everything, and don't insist that you pay for nothing. I pay for everything. Well, that sure is sweet of you. I mean, this is a multi-millionaire. You know me, I'm just Joe Schmuck here compared to this lady. Well, I told my dad, I said, I have a present for you. I got a big surprise for you. Mom, I want you and I want my dad to go to Chappie's to eat with me, okay? I'm going to pay for everything. Don't worry about it. I said, oh, okay. But what my dad didn't know is that Gia was going to be there. And whenever Gia came and I introduced her to my dad, I swear to God, I thought my dad was going to pass out. He couldn't believe it. He's like, are you kidding me? You're friends with Louis Prima's wife? Yeah. That was a biggie, man. That was a biggie in my life. It was a biggie in my dad. It's like, these were big time people. They were even in a movie. Louis Prima was in a movie called Hey Boy, Hey Girl. It's an old movie. Watch it. It's really good. Hey Boy, Hey Girl. It's an old black and white film, but it's fantastic. They were in another movie called The Rat Pack. They were in that too. But Hey Boy, Hey Girl is much better. So anyway, we had a lovely, lunch or dinner or whatever it was, and my dad couldn't. He was so impressed. He was so proud of me. I mean, he was proud like he couldn't believe that I am personal friends with Louis Prima's wife, my dad's superstar singer of all time, Louis Prima. Well, little while passed, I get another phone call from Gia, and she goes, Jim, listen, would you escort me, be like my escort? We have to go to New Orleans because they are awarding my husband, Louis Prima, some kind of big jazz award in New Orleans, and I have to be there. And I have to drive right past, where you are, where you live on the coast. Would you please go with me? I said, you got it. So I got to go to this award ceremony with Gia, which they honored Louis Prima. And it was all kind of big time jazz musicians and all kind of people there. I got to meet all kinds of people. I met people I didn't even know who the hell they were, but they were big time in the genre of jazz music. So, okay, so we did that. Now I'm going to wrap it up here. God, I can't believe how long this is, but it's a story. I can't take a story, a 30-minute story, and tell it in 3 minutes. I can't do it. So I thanked her. We had a wonderful time, and we stopped and we had lunch or dinner or whatever it was, and then she dropped me off at home, and then she went on back to Destin. And I could tell more, but I'll shorten this up. Well, a terrible thing happened. Gia got very sick. I mean, she was older than me, of course. She got sick, and the bottom line is she passed away. She died. Gia was one of my dearest, dearest, sweetest friends on earth. It just worked out that way. And when she died, I felt like I lost a best friend. But I was so grateful for this opportunity. Because of Gia, because of her husband Louis and Sam Butera and the band and everybody, that was the connection that brought my dad and I together. And we were like best friends for years and years and years. We started off on this terrible, terrible, abusive roller coaster. And it went into the Louis Prima music. We became very good friends. We got closer and closer and closer, all the way up to the moment that my dad died. So that's my story. Music brought me and my dad together. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. I'm Jimmy Rance.